wolves. Here's basically a sheet, an advertisement. Idaho wolf trappers wanted. Foundation for Wildlife Management. $1,000 per wolf and you can keep the pelt. Trappers. Idaho's need your help to assist the Idaho Department of Fish and Game in managing wolf populations to save elk, moose, and the rest of Idaho's wildlife, and to protect livestock and Idaho's ranching heritage. Wolf predation on livestock at record highs. Elk pressured out of the backcountry and down into ranches and farm ground where they are wreaking havoc on crops and fences. Wolf numbers are so high, the number one killer in Idaho wolves is now other wolves. This is supported by the Idaho Cattlemen Association, Idaho Fish and Game Commission. Did you hear that, folks? The Game Commission is supporting this. Idaho Fish and Game Department, Idaho Farm Bureau, Idaho Trappers Association, Intermountain Fur Harvesters, funded by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Thanks, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Members in fundraiser banquets, sportsmen and connected outfitters, private and commercial sponsors. Foundation for Wildlife Management. We bring those who want wolves managed together and those who have the ways and means to get the job done. Sign up today at f4wm.org. Now, also yesterday was brought to my attention in the latest Predator magazine, they have killed 575 wolves in Idaho. They've paid out an average of $600 per wolf. The prices are going to vary. I don't know why the price varies, but basically they've got a bounty. This is a bounty on wolves. We've had the same sort of thing happen here in Wyoming. I live in the valley that's been the most hit of anywhere, particularly in Wyoming. The North Fork of the Shoshone River, west of Cody, Wyoming, and east of Yellowstone Park. The hunting, as I've known it, in all the years that I've hunted this country, the hunting has virtually been destroyed. It's all but gone, folks. Here in Wyoming, our Wyoming Game and Fish Department, headed by the director, Brian Nesvik, does absolutely nothing in this state to protect our wildlife. If you want to call the little meager small quota of wolves that are taken out doing something, this is laughable. This is absolutely laughable. We live in a valley here where we don't have a great cattle situation. If there was a lot of cattle here in the valley, they'd fly this and take out wolves that were preying on the cattle. But the hell with the wildlife, it doesn't make any difference what it is. The moose are just, they've been gone for years and years and years, all but just a small little remnant. The elk herds that we see here in the valley, the average person coming through the valley here would think that we got a lot of elk. Well, this is a real joke. What's happened here is elk have figured these things out and they've herded up and they've positioned themselves from early fall, and they'll do this till late in the spring on private property on people's fields, right in and around and near homes. Basically what this has created is a preserve. It's a preserve. Nobody has designed this, nobody has paid for this, but these private properties become preserves for this wildlife. So what this means to you and I and everybody else is the greatest majority of this wildlife has gone out of the mountains here where we have hunted for years. I've hunted this valley for 55 years. 15 years ago, things pretty well were going to hell around here. But since then, it has absolutely been devastated by this wolf situation. You see, these wolves are not only just eating these animals, but these animals have adapted ways to try and what is remaining to survive. We really don't have any business in and around and on private property right by homes killing this wildlife. But something is drastically in need of being done to see that these animals don't position themselves on these properties. We've got them on ranch properties. Some of these ranches are charging huge trespass fees to come in and shoot a cow elk. I've heard of several $1,000s to come on the property to shoot a cow elk. And when this first began and these animals first started coming onto these big ranches and so forth, there were huge numbers of elk. And they're still claiming that we got these huge numbers of elk. But I simply don't believe it. I've hunted some of this country, this low country, and the elk are just not there. We've got a small little group of elk that people keep pushing around, and once in a while they get off this private property and an elk or two gets killed. The same thing here in the valley where I live. Once in a great while, animals might venture off that property and position themselves on our BLM or forest grounds where we can take an elk. My hunting opportunities here in the valley, I've hunted here not far from my home here, it's been virtually taken away from me. And these wonderful people in the Wyoming Game and Fish Department are doing absolutely not one damn thing about it. They have developed over time, since these wolves were illegally introduced here in Wyoming, they've developed an attitude that they really don't give a damn. They don't care. They don't want to do anything about it. I just read in our local paper called the Cody Enterprise an article there, and it mentioned the Wyoming Game and Fish director, Brian Nesvik, stating that we still have hunting. Oh my God, folks. This is really pretty damn sick. We still have hunting. I guess as long as we can still buy a license and there's still an animal around, we can say that we still have hunting. We're really off track here. We're off track by a long ways. This guy, I'm sorry to say, is really not in touch with what's going on here. When these wolves are brought in, we have two designations in Wyoming for wolves. A predator area, which is east of Wyoming Highway 120, running north and south from Montana down through Wyoming. Everything west of that is a trophy zone. You can hunt wolves year-round in the predator zone, but you've got a limited quota in the trophy zone, and this is where most of these wolves are, and this is where they have wreaked havoc with our wildlife and destroyed it. You can travel such vast areas of the North Fork here and never find any game whatsoever, because the game has had to learn to try and live someplace else and go someplace else. And those someplace else's are invariably situations where we can't get to wildlife, where we can't touch the wildlife on these private properties. I know a local rancher here in the valley. He put an electric fence early early in the season on his place to keep elk out. In 5 days, these elk figured out that they weren't wanted around there, and the elk left and they haven't come back. Well, this tells me that a bunch of these properties here need an electric fence to keep these elk out. And the Game and Fish Department's constantly telling that we're at herd objectives are higher than what they should be, at or near or are higher than what they should be. And this is not the point. The point is that our hunting opportunities are virtually gone. I emphasize gone. If we can't hunt like we always hunted before these wolves come in here, and we can't do what we did before and be able to enjoy this wildlife that I have built with my dollars by buying a hunting license, and everybody else that spent money here in Wyoming, if we can't enjoy what we built, then we've got a serious problem. And these people in the Wyoming Game and Fish Department have their head on backwards, absolutely backwards. There is no doubt about it. They have developed a track record here on this. You can't hardly talk to them. You can't reach them. Everything goes in right in one ear and out the other. I know, I've been there, I've done it. And I've seen it. And there just doesn't seem to be anything that anybody says or brings to light that ever registers with these people. It's obvious that this is an agenda for a guy that directs this to say that we still have hunting. Oh boy, folks, this is so far off that it's unbelievable. I guess that all that we have to do is sell a hunting license and say that we still have hunting. You see, I buy a hunting license for several reasons. Because I was born and raised in the hunting industry. I've been involved to do with hunting, guns, shooting, building guns, virtually my lifetime. I hunt because I love the country. I hunt because I love everything that it is supposed to be. I hunt because I love to eat elk, deer, moose, or sheep, whatever, or antelope, whatever I draw a license for. But it is very serious at this point in time. I can tell you that our deer herd here is in such bad straits that I feel that it's going to go just like the moose. The moose are just about virtually gone. And around 10 years ago, I counted deer visible in the valley here in the fields and whatnot after right the last day or two of the season that have migrated out, and I counted 1,000 deer and I counted 96 bucks. Well, that's visible antlered bucks. Yeah, there's a few more counting the nubbin bucks, the 6-month-old nubbin bucks that are out there. But you can't really see that, you can't count it. So let's just double that and call it 20. 20 is not an acceptable number, 20 bucks per 100 does. At that time, I brought everything to the Game and Fish Department, all this information to our local warden, and he said there were 39 bucks. Well, there's no way they could come up with 39 bucks. He was counting them the same way that I was. And we tried to get them to do something, and since that time, every year it's went down. You're lucky to count a couple hundred head of deer in these fields. There's so few bucks, some bucks and a few does winter in and around our home here, and we've got just about a third, just right at about a third of what we used to here. And you know, this wolf situation, it doesn't make any difference where it's at, whether it's here in Wyoming or where it is. And some of you folks listening, you got wolves in your state and you got wolf problems. But there has got to be something that has got to be done. And I believe that people need to come together. People need to come together and organize. We need to be able to hunt these wolves in Wyoming 365 days a year. There should be absolutely no quota. They have destroyed the hunting base, and it spells it out when when the director says we still have hunting. Oh boy, it is really, really sad. And this is an attack from every angle on our constitutional rights to do with private property rights. Wolves are on private property, wreaking havoc on private property and doing things, and they're doing absolutely nothing about it. It doesn't seem to make any difference here with these folks. It just doesn't register. And a lot of people get a hold of me because of where I am and what I do. They want to go hunting. Well, I don't suggest that most anybody come to Wyoming to go hunting. There's hardly nothing at all to hunt. There's hardly nothing for me to hunt or anybody else to hunt if you come here. You know, if you spend your hard-earned dollars to come to Wyoming, you better really research this very, very well and make sure that it's somewhere where we have opportunities. It certainly isn't in this corner of Wyoming that takes in the complete trophy zone for hunting wolves, because this hunting situation is just flat gone as far as I'm concerned here. And what I mean by gone is it's in such serious straits right now that unless these things are completely addressed and we have predator control, and I mean damn well predator control here in Wyoming, especially in this part of Wyoming, it is going to be just totally finished. There won't be anything. But the Game and Fish Department will be glad to sell you a permit despite whether there's any opportunities whatsoever. And we're at a terrible strait to do with every one of our rights, to do with what we've built. The dollars, our hard-earned dollars have built this, and these people are taking these monies and taking our huge, huge kickback from Pittman Robertson funds to the tune of $17 or $18 million this past year, and using this to take away my hunting rights, your hunting rights, and everything else. Your dollars, my dollars, to take it away. This is how it's being done. There hasn't been anything purposely set aside, but they're using your dollars and my dollars from every angle to take it away. Something has to stop here. These funds have got to be cut off. The funds have got to be cut off, and maybe if they didn't have a damn paycheck, because that's really all that's important to these folks, is their paycheck and their retirement and the hell with the wildlife.